the Asia Pacific and across into Latin America, I believe, as well. So good morning to you and good afternoon to everybody else and scattered around the world. So today we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about a little bit about IHM, just for those of you who don't know us very well, for us to give you a bit of an introduction as to who we are. And then we're going to talk about, as Owen said, some pathway courses targeted to the nursing market specifically. And I'll talk a little bit about the size of that nursing market, so you can start to get a bit of an idea about the value and how we can work together on being able to tap into that market. We'll then talk about some courses, then we'll talk about some fees, and then, as Owen said, we'll have hopefully a good Q&A discussion afterwards, okay? So what I'm going to do is I will just share my screen with you, and here we are here. So this is all working perfectly, which is fantastic. So hopefully everybody can see my screen, and what we're going to talk about to start with is basically a pathway to nursing registration in Australia. So let me tell you a little bit about, first of all, a little bit about the Institute of Health and Management. So IHM is the higher education division of the Institute, Health Careers International. So we have two institutes. One is a higher education institute. The other is a vocational institute, which is called the Institute of Health and Nursing Australia. IHNA, the Vocational Institute, commenced operating in 2007. So that's 15 years now. And IHM started delivering its first courses in 2016. So that's just on 5 years ago now. Okay, so we specialize in nursing and healthcare training. As our name says, if in both, that's our focus. But that's not just nursing, it's also across into management, clinical and non-clinical roles, etc. But that's our primary focus, and that's where we intend to stay. Since we started training in 2016, we have assisted 2,000 odd nurses to finalize their nursing registration in Australia. So this is a really important part of our business, and we hope it'll become an important part of your business as well as we progress along. We're a higher education provider, as I mentioned, and we're accredited by TEXA. Now, TEXA is the higher education regulator in Australia. So a bit like the Ministry of Education in many countries. And it accredits us as well as universities in Australia. So we all work to the same book. We all comply to the same standards as well. So as I say, a picture tells 1,000 words. So I'm just going to show you a quick 3-minute video, if I may, just to give you a bit of a sense about who we are, where we are, and some of the facilities that students who are coming to study with us in Australia or joining us online will have access to. So let me just click this link here, and we will kickstart this off, and hopefully you can also hear as well. Okay. So just
Institute of Health and Management is an independent provider of higher education and research in the field of nursing in Australia.
Is the sound okay, Owen? Thumbs up.
Accredited by TEXA, IHM.
Yes, I can hear the sound, but I cannot see.
Well-renowned Health Careers International, or HCI Group. IHM offers quality postgraduate education to highly motivated nurses, helping them to reach new heights in their nursing careers. Graduate Diploma of Nursing and Graduate Certificate of Nursing are two of the most popular courses which help both domestic and international nurses to upgrade their qualification to Australian Qualification Framework Level 8. The EPIQRN program has assisted thousands of internationally qualified nurses to attain their Australian nursing registration. IHM has a global presence with offices and training centers spread across the world in countries like Dubai, India, and Philippines. Within Australia, it has campuses in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. IHM believes in developing partnerships with universities as well as the local and global communities, which allow it to develop and evolve with the current healthcare and health management industry. With a wealth of faculty experience, expertise, state-of-the-art technology, and brilliant online learning platforms, IHM has what is required to meet the requirements of nursing professionals of today and the future. IHM has helped more than 10,000 nurses through their various programs. IHM's state-of-the-art teaching facilities ensures to give the best learning experience to students. Our learning hubs and centers located in India, Qatar, Jordan, Oman, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, Dubai ensures that students can take advantage of IHM's
Excuse me, Simon.
education
Yeah,
from
I know,
the countries of their origin or work. IHM offers pathways to postgraduate programs through articulations with universities.
Okay, so my apologies there. I thought we had you heard a lot, you didn't see a lot. So my apologies for that. I will when we finish, perhaps when we get to the end, I will we can just replay that, and by then we will have sorted out. I just need to get a dual screen share. Okay, so as I said, my apologies, but we'll come back to that for you a little bit later on. So as that video was starting to talk about, we have campuses in Melbourne, Sydney, and Perth. And we have offices and training centers in India, Dubai, Philippines, and Nepal, as well as in Colombia in Latin America as well. So we are a global focused training provider. Our focus is international students coming to Australia as much as it is Australian education being delivered in our campuses in India or in supported and blended learning through our learning hubs and centers in Dubai and the Philippines and Nepal and a whole lot of other places as well. Some of these photos, there's 4 photos there I'll just quickly refer you to, and then they're just some quick snapshots of our labs and our training centers. All of our campuses are to the same standard. And that's something that when you're talking to students, you should be able to give students confidence that the quality of the facilities they'll be coming to are the same, no matter whether they're in Melbourne, Sydney, or Perth, or in India. And we're very confident of that as well. Now let's talk about the nursing registration pathway to Australia. And I'll talk about this for a few moments because it'll give you a bit of background about how these courses then fit together to help nurses, internationally trained nurses, to then come to Australia, finalize their registration and realize their dreams as well. Okay, so nursing registration in Australia has changed. 2 years ago, the Nursing Registration Board decided it wanted to move away from what was a 12-week training course that was held on campus, and they wanted to move to what's called an outcomes-based assessment, which means essentially some tests and then a face-to-face skills assessment for nurses who have been trained overseas to demonstrate that they have the skills to work in the Australian healthcare system. So that change started formally in February 2020. And since then, we have been steadily, and in amongst all of COVID and everything in Australia's borders closed, the OBA assessment has begun to start happening in Australia. So essentially there's 5 steps to the registration process now. The first 2 steps, or the first step is online, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The second step is again online, and that's the nursing board doing its own assessment of an application. And the third, step 3 is where I'll focus you for a moment, okay? So step number 3 is the OBA assessment, or the outcomes-based assessment. Now, this is the testing that the Nursing Registration Board is doing in Australia these days to then assess the skills and whether nurses who have trained overseas have the necessary skills and qualifications to then come and work in Australia. Comprises 2 parts. The first part, step number 1, is what's called Nclex, which is it's an online multiple choice question test. And Nclex is as I said, it's an online, but it's multiple choice, and it's approximately 200 questions that the nurse completes. Normally takes 3 to 4 hours to do. Now, they do that at a Pearson testing center. So Pearson testing centers, as you know, all over the world. So the testing is being done at those Pearson testing centers, okay? So that's the first component. Preparation is absolutely essential if an internationally qualified or trained nurse is going to be successful in passing step 1 and then step number 2 as well. So please, when you're talking to nurses, the preparation is really important. Generally, about 50% of nurses pass on their first attempt if they've done some preparation. If they've done full preparation with someone like us, then that pass rate's up around 90%, 80 to 90%, okay? Nurses who don't bother to prepare, the failure rate is well above 50%, okay? So that's the Nclex online test. Now that's the same test that you would do if you were going to, if a nurse was going to work in the UK or Canada or the US, okay? So Australia's started to align itself a little bit more with those countries. The second stage is what's called Osce, and this is the OSCE down the bottom here. And that again it's an outcomes-based test, but it's a face-to-face test held in Adelaide in Australia. Nurses will come for 2 days and they will do 10 scenario tests. So in other words, they will be given a scenario or a case study and then asked to then demonstrate for 15 or 20 minutes how they would provide nursing care to the patient given the scenario they've been given, okay? 10 stations. In that room is the nurse and a nursing assessor from the registration board, and they either pass or they fail. There's no, you sort of passed, you didn't pass, they either pass or fail, okay? Once they've completed step 3, nurses can then finalize lodge their final application for registration, because they'll be told that they'll know that they've already passed the steps 2 pieces in step number 3, file for their registration, make sure their language is up to date, and then their registration will take about 6 weeks and be completed, okay? There's 3 things a nurse needs in order to finalize that registration. When they do step number 1 and they go to what's called a self-check, an online site to just confirm that they've got the right level of qualification and registration, they need 3 things. They need their qualification. So they need to be a bachelor qualified nurse. So that means the nurse must hold a Bachelor of Nursing qualification. If a nurse holds a diploma of nursing, now that could be a 3-year diploma from India, a 3.5-year diploma from somewhere like Sri Lanka, for example, then they do not meet the standard for entry to be registered in Australia just with a diploma. They will need to upgrade their qualification in order to then be eligible, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment, okay? They also need to be registered in the country that they're working in or in their home country, okay? So they must have current nursing registration, okay? Now, at this point, the nurse may already have an IELTS or a PTE or an OET language certificate. If they don't, it's no problem. They can apply, they can lodge their, they can put in their documentation for an assessment. They don't need to finalize their language level, which is IELTS 7 in all 4 bands, OET B, or PTE 65. So they don't need to finalize the language level until they get to step number 4, okay? Now, just to repeat those language levels, IELTS 7 in all 4 bands, OET B, or PTE 65, okay? So they might have that at step number 1 when they submit their application for assessment, or they may go through steps 1, 2, 3, and then at step number 4, once they've done all of their tests and passed, then they can finalize their language, because they'll probably need to do another test, okay? So when you're talking to nurses, they don't need to rush off, and the first thing they do often is want to go and do a test. They don't need to do that. They can go through the preparation program and the registration program, and then finalize their language test, okay? So they're essentially the 5 steps of registration. It's a simpler system, and it's also a system that's designed for nurses to demonstrate their skills, because nursing at the end of the day is a skills-based profession, okay? So I'm just going to talk to you, as I did a minute ago, about step number 3, which is the Nclex and the OBA or the Osce assessment, okay? Generally, Nclex will take 3 hours. It's an online test. So when the preparation course that we run is also an online preparation, because that's how we then help nurses prepare for the online testing environment. We teach 2 things. We teach them the tricks and the techniques of how to pass the test. We also teach the nursing knowledge so that they're able to confidently answer each question, okay? The second part, as I said, the Osce assessment, is a clinical examination, and that's there to test their knowledge and their skills of Australian nursing standards and Australian nursing practice, okay? So what it does is it takes their existing skills and knowledge and then builds on those so that they understand the Australian context, okay? The Nclex test, to take that online, is $550 per attempt. There's no limit on the number of times a nurse can do the test, okay? The Osce test is conducted in Adelaide in South Australia over 2 days, and the fee for that test is $4,000 per attempt. Again, there's no limit on the number of times that a nurse can take or attempt the Osce test, okay? However, as you could imagine, once you start adding $4,000 plus $4,000, it starts to get quite expensive if the nurse has not done any preparation and is just hoping one day they'll be able to work their way through. Because the reality is they need to prepare, and that's where you come in, and that's where our course comes in as well, okay? So let's talk about the Nclex preparation course, first of all. It's a 12-week online course. So as I said, it's an online test. We teach online, okay? The course fee is $3,500, and we do have scholarships available for that as well. So please talk to Owen about the scholarships that we have available. That includes the course. It includes live discussion groups. It includes theory classes. And every day we will be sending to all of our students 10 new questions every day from the pool of questions that the Nclex test uses. So every day they'll be reviewing and answering another 10 questions. Next session, online forum or live group discussion, they discuss those, they discuss the answers, and then they just start another 10 and another 10 and another 10, okay? It's a 12-week course. 12 weeks by 5 days is 60 days. 10 questions means they answer. There's about 600 or 700 questions in the Nclex pool, so they get a chance to answer pretty much every question during their training, okay? We also offer 24/7 student support. Nurses work late, they work shifts, they work night shifts, etc. So we offer support 24/7. If I have a question at 2 a.m. in the morning, I can simply call the support center or jump online, and there'll be somebody there who can help me answer my question. We have an excellent online learning platform, and all of our faculty have done the Nclex test. So they've passed the test, they know how to pass the test, and they're very good at teaching how to pass the test as well. The second part is the Osce preparation course, and that will be held on a campus, either in Australia or in India or the Philippines. And the nursing labs will look like the one on the right-hand side in the photograph, okay? Just like an Australian nursing ward or hospital ward, so that the nurses are exposed, international nurses are exposed to Australian nursing conditions. 6-week course on campus in Australia, 5 days per week for 6 weeks. Practice in the morning, class theory in the afternoon, theory in the morning, practice, etc. And that goes on for 5 days a week. And if nurses feel they need extra practice, the labs are available after hours until 9 p.m. at night, and on Saturdays between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. as well, okay? Students can also study this part-time in India and the Philippines. So they don't have to come to Australia to do their preparation. They can do that with us in India, in Cochin, or they can do that in Manila in the Philippines, okay? The nursing lab looks the same as the one in the photographs, and that's normally two or 3 days a week, including Saturdays, so they're then able to fit that in with their working schedule. The course fee, $5,500. We do have some scholarships available, so please talk to Owen about where they're available. It's essentially simulation training on campus, intensive simulation, so nurses can take their skills and their knowledge and put them into the Australian nursing practice. The rest I've talked about: tutorials, vSim, virtual simulation, peer-assisted learning, daily Osce practice, etc., etc. Okay. So now let's talk a bit about, I mentioned earlier about the pathways that nurses will need to take if their qualifications are not at the right level in order to be eligible to enroll, or sorry, to register with the nursing board. So if a diploma qualified nurse would like to register as a nurse in Australia, and by a diploma, I mean a 3-year diploma, which is very common in India, or a 3.5-year diploma, which is very common in Sri Lanka, for example. Malaysia offers a 3-year diploma. Cambodia, a majority of nurses in Cambodia are diploma qualified, for example. Then they will need to complete a qualification either at a bachelor or above level. Now, let me explain that to you. If you look at the little wheel on the right-hand side, you'll see the little brown section for level 6. Now, diploma holders have a level 6 qualification, okay? That means that their qualification is at a diploma level. To be registered in Australia, nurses must be at a level 7 or a bachelor degree level. So this 6 doesn't equal 7. So nurses, unfortunately, either have 2 choices. They can either go and do a bachelor course, which means they'll have to do virtually the entire 3-year bachelor course in Australia at a cost of somewhere around $70,000 to $80,000, which is the course fees, about $25,000 to $30,000 each year to do a 3-year bachelor course. Or they can do a 6-month graduate certificate level 8 qualification and jump straight from level 6 to level 8, okay? And we'll talk about this graduate certificate in nursing now. We've been offering this course for the past 3 years for overseas trained diploma qualified nurses who want to be able to register in Australia. The nursing board approves the course. The nursing board will recognise the course when they're assessing the qualification level for nurses who come with a diploma qualification. So essentially what it means is a nurse is able to jump from level 6 to level 8 because the graduate certificate in nursing is a level 8 qualification, okay? So that's a nice direct pathway for nurses who are diploma qualified. In addition, we offer a Master of Nursing program, which is a 2-year course, and I'll talk about in a moment, which then provides that longer option of a 2-year COE for nurses to then be able to be eligible for a post-study work visa, 2 or 3 years, and to then, if they wish, consider making themselves eligible for migration as well, okay? So let's talk about those courses specifically. And what I might do is I might go to the graduate certificate first, and then we'll come back to the master's. So as I said, the graduate certificate is a 6-month online course. Now we're offering it online at the moment because Australia's borders are closed. The government tells us it will be sometime between maybe May and June 2022 before those borders open. We think, let's not waste time, and students and nurses should not waste time waiting for the borders to open. Get started on their graduate certificate now, be able to jump from a level 6 to a level 8, so they're then eligible for registration in Australia. They can then complete their Nclex and their Osce pre-registration preparation courses, and then they're ready as soon as borders open to come down and do their tests and finalize their registration. So as I said, it's a 6-month course. There's no practical placement. That's why we can offer it online. And it's a progressive tests and assignments. There's no one big exam at the end. It's in Australia what we call progressive assessments that they work through during the course. The graduate certificate also offers a pathway to masters. So for 3-year diploma holders, this is the only opportunity, a very unique opportunity for a diploma holder to be eligible to finish a Masters of Nursing course. Normally masters are reserved, masters require a Bachelor of Nursing entry to get started. Tuition fee online, $5,500, whilst Australia's borders remain closed. Okay, so very affordable for overseas trained nurses, $5,500 online. I'm going to go back to the Master of Nursing for a moment. 104-week course, and it's an AQF level 9. So if you are a 3-year diploma holder, you will be going from level 6 to level 9 in 2 years. So for nurses who are looking to be eligible for a post-study work visa in Australia, the Master of Nursing course is the perfect course for them. If they start, they will have to start, if they're a diploma holder, have to start with the graduate certificate in nursing. Once they complete that graduate certificate, they'll be eligible to then enter the Master of Nursing, and we will give them credit for the first semester that they have completed by doing the graduate certificate. Okay. As I said earlier, we are issuing a 104-week COE. So 2 years COE, which means nurses are then eligible for a 2-year or a 3-year post-study work visa. We do offer 1 unit in there as an elective, which offers a 120-hour placement in Australian healthcare facilities. So this is a great course also for nurses who want to get some practical experience in Australia about working in the Australian healthcare system. That will help them prepare for their registration testing as well. Okay. The general entry requirement is Bachelor Qualified Nurses. AQF level 7. However, diploma qualified nurses, when they can successfully complete the graduate certificate, and then they're eligible for entry and they will gain the credit. English language requirement 6.5, no less than 6 in any one band. PTE 56, OET B and C, a clubbed combination of OET B and C. The fees are $47,000 on campus, $32,000 online. Okay, so if someone wants to study the entire course online, they are able to do that, and that will cost them $32,000. If somebody wants to join on campus, they can then join. They can enroll in the on-campus course. They can get started online whilst the borders are closed, and when they come to Australia, that nurse will still be eligible for their 485 post-study work visa at the end of their course. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, key benefits: 2-year post-study work visa, 3 years if they study in Perth, which is a huge benefit. Eligible for 5 extra points if they should choose to apply for permanent residency some stage. A master's is worth 5 extra points. And if they should choose to apply for residency sometime, there's 5 additional points if they study in Perth, because it's a regional area. Okay, so all of those provide some nice benefits for a Master of Nursing program. Okay, I've talked about the graduate certificate. Now, let's talk about jobs, because jobs are really important. This is the reason nurses spend money. This is the reason we believe we need to invest in helping our nurses to find a career and advance their careers. Australia, like a lot of countries in the world, is aging. And so the demand for healthcare workforce continues to increase, and there's more growing demand than there is new nurses available in the workforce. So consequently, Australia relies on overseas trained nurses to fill the gap between domestic Australian students who are doing nursing and the demand in increasing health needs by people who are aging rapidly. So let me give you an idea. By 2030, the largest part of the population in Australia will be over 65. Okay, that's over 65. The average age of a nurse in Australia is 57 years of age. The retirement age is 65. So there's 8 years between 57 and 65. There's only 10 years until we start to reach that critical point of nursing shortage. That's about 200,000 nurses that Australia needs to find in order to be able to keep up with demand. Okay. When I look at Southeast Asia will add about 500 million people to the population of Southeast Asian countries over the next 15 to 20 years. 500 million people. So again, the demand for nurses and for healthcare workers is going to continue to increase in Australia, Southeast Asia, the UK, Canada, etc. Australian qualifications are recognised around the world. So if a nurse studies with us, for example, in blended delivery or online in Vietnam or in Singapore or in the Philippines, they can take that qualification and it will be recognised in the UK, Ireland, Germany, France, Dubai, wherever it may be. Okay, so that's one of the benefits. And as I said earlier, part of our focus is to attract international students to Australia. The other part is for us to be able to deliver qualifications, our qualifications online for nurses around the world. Okay, so that demand is only going to grow, and it's only going to grow for specialist nurses. And that's nurses who have completed a graduate certificate or a master's and who are then classified as specialists, because number one, they get paid about 30% more. And number two, the greatest demand in jobs is for specialist nurses, not so much for staff, general staff nurses. Staff nurses are generally filled with new graduates coming from universities in Australia, Singapore, Vietnam, Cambodia, etc. It's the specialist nurses that have the greatest demand around the world. Okay? So when you're talking to nurses, when you're thinking about how can I market or what markets are available to us in your country, nursing is a very specific market. And what motivates internationally trained nurses is the opportunity to work overseas, to earn a greater salary than they're currently earning in their home country. And to give you an idea, in Australia, for example, a staff nurse, so that would be a bachelor qualified nurse with registration, will earn somewhere around $60,000 to $65,000 per year. If they're working all the late shifts, etc., that'll push up towards $70,000 a year. A master's qualified specialist will earn $90,000 to $100,000 a year. So about 30% more for a simple 2-year investment of $45,000 in a master's program. So the difference you can see is quite substantial. $20,000 to $30,000 per year. In 1.5 to 2 years, they've paid for their education, and they then have a lifetime of benefit of earning that 30% more at that specialist and master's level. Okay. So why IHM? We've talked about our online learning platform. I've talked about 24/7 support, state-of-the-art facilities. You've seen some photographs and you saw the video of actually didn't see the video, but I'll show you that in a moment, of our facilities. All of our faculty are highly experienced. If they're teaching the Nclex test, it's because they've passed the Nclex test. They've passed the Osce assessments, whether it be in the UK or somewhere else. If they're teaching masters, it's because they are at a PhD level. If they're teaching the graduate certificate, it's because they understand and they've been an international nurse who has then upgraded their qualification and then gone on to registration in Australia. So our teachers are all nurses. They have frontline experience, and then their job is to bring that experience into their teaching so that internationally qualified students are able to then advance their careers as well. So that's about what I had to say. Oh, and what I might do is, I'm just going to go back to this little link here, and hopefully I can share it. So bear with me just a moment. I'm going to stop that share, and I'm going to go to
Institute of Health and Management is an independent provider of higher education and research in the field of nursing in Australia.
Where is it?
Accredited by TEXA, IHM is the subsidiary of the well-renowned Health Careers International, or HCI Group.
Here you are.
IHM offers quality postgraduate education to highly motivated nurses, helping them to reach new heights in their nursing careers. Graduate Diploma of Nursing and Graduate Certificate of Nursing are two of the most popular courses which help both domestic and international nurses to upgrade their qualification to Australian Qualification Framework Level 8. The EPIQRN program has assisted thousands of internationally qualified nurses to attain their Australian nursing registration. IHM has a global presence with offices and training centers spread across the world in countries like Dubai, India, and Philippines. Within Australia, it has campuses in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. IHM believes in developing partnerships with universities as well as the local and global communities, which allow it to develop and evolve with the current healthcare and health management industry. With a wealth of faculty experience, expertise, state-of-the-art technology, and brilliant online learning platforms, IHM has what is required to meet the requirements of nursing professionals of today and the future. IHM has helped more than 10,000 nurses through their various programs. IHM's state-of-the-art teaching facilities ensures to give the best learning experience to students. Our learning hubs and centers located in India, Qatar, Jordan, Oman, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, Dubai ensures that students can take advantage of IHM's quality education from the countries of their origin or work. IHM offers pathways to postgraduate programs through articulations with universities such as University of Dundee, Scotland, Charles Darwin University, Australia, for a bigger, better, and amazing experience that would open new world of opportunities for your career.
Great. So that is I'm going to stop that share. So that video is available to you. That video and a number of other videos and marketing material are available. Owen can make those available to you. We can edit and tune up a little bit if you want to if you'd like to put a local language subtitles. We can also work with you on that so that you're then able to be as relevant to your market as possible. There's a whole range of brochures, marketing materials, course guides, information. But also don't forget our website, ihm.edu.au. All of the information that we talk about today is available on that website. So the course information about living and working in Australia, studying in Australia, etc. There's two more things I just want to mention. One of those is around job placement. The reason a nurse invests in their education is because they want to advance their career and earn more money. They want to work in another country where they can then advance their career and earn more as well. IHM and HCI Group overall assists all of our students with either part-time work placement whilst they're studying, or full-time once they graduate or near ready to graduate, is connecting them with employers to help them transition into work. When students are studying with us, they're on a student visa so they can work 20 hours per week. So we then work with those students, and we have employers approaching us every single day looking for part-time workers to work in aged care, in disability care, in community care settings. A nurse does not need to be registered in Australia to do that. So it's a perfect opportunity for student nurses studying with us in Australia to be able to get to work in the Australian healthcare system. The pay is about $20 to $23 per hour, and they can work 20 hours per week. So it means they can cover their living costs, hopefully be able to send a little bit of money back home, and also contribute towards their fees as well. Okay, that's the first part. As I mentioned, also we assist and we connect our students in with employers when they finish their work as well. So job placement's a really, really important part of that. We will also pick students up at the airport. We will take them to their accommodation. We'll help them settle in, show them how to buy groceries, show them how to set up a bank account, all of those things as well. That's an important part of our responsibility to students, to be able to help them settle in and then settle into their studies and to then settle into life in Australia as well. So they're two important components. That is something that IHNA and Health Careers International has done since we first started working with international students back in 2007. Okay, so that brings me to the end of the presentation and the discussion, I suppose. Now we're very happy to answer questions, and Owen will moderate those questions for you, and we'll stay here until we answer all of your questions. So feel free through the chat room or the Q&A boxes, just dump some questions, or if you'd like to ask something live just unmute yourself and then you can ask that question as well. Over to you, Owen. Just on mute, Owen.
Yeah, okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thanks, Ms. Simon, for this excellent presentation. And now it is Q&A time. Just reminder that if you have any questions, just type your questions in your Q&A panel, so I can bring them up to the Mr. Simon. So now the first question is from the June. Thank you for the pre-shares information. Have you seen any Japanese nursing holding a 3-year diploma of nursing qualified for EPIQ or OBA with the graduate certificate? Are you 100% sure it works for Japanese diploma of nursing graduate? How they could be a specialist nurse with a master of nursing? The specialist nurse means a nurse with a specialization such as aged care, something.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Good. Very, very good question. And I'm very happy to talk about individual or specific markets as well. So we have I think four or five students from Japan who are studying with us. They have come, they've done, a couple of them have joined our graduate certificate course in order to then be eligible to apply for registration in Australia. Okay. Just one note I'll make there, June, is the EPIQ program. The EPIQ course is no longer available from IHM. Okay, so as the nursing board is changing over to the OBA process, the EPIQ course, our approval for EPIQ ends on the 9th of August. Okay, so we're offering that course 2 more times in Australia for anybody who's onshore, but for anybody who can't come to Australia, that will end on the 9th of August. So we have I think had 5 Japanese nurses, 2 bachelor, 3 diploma qualified, who are working through the process at the moment. So they're studying with us. They've started in the past 6 months, and they're working their way through to be able to finalize, eligible for registration, and then complete their registration testing. I think a couple actually did EPIQ as well, if I recall. Now, what I can do, June, is I will, and Owen, you can connect June up with Cinta in Perth, because Cinta has been working specifically with these students from Japan, and she would be able to then talk to June more specifically about all of the ins and outs and ups and downs that they've gone through. June, Cinta is our marketing and sales manager in our Perth campus, and she's been working with some of the Japanese students as well. Okay. Now, in answer to your second question, June, which is about becoming a specialist nurse. So the Master of Nursing is a level 9 postgraduate course. Okay. So what the course does, the reason master's programs don't generally include clinical placements is because they're designed to build on the skills that a nurse has and take them to advanced nursing practice. So a lot of it focuses around critical thinking, critical application of skills, etc. So a master's qualified nurse will be somebody who will then, you will see in a hospital, who will be a nurse, a team leader, or a station leader, or a ward leader, or director of nursing, or whatever it may be. So they will be at that level. Okay. And it's quite a substantial difference. It's quite a substantial difference in a hospital environment to be a specialist nurse versus a staff nurse. And the roles and the responsibilities that a specialist nurse, a master's qualified nurse, is undertaking every day will generally be supervising staff nurses and ensuring quality care delivery, quality practices. They're always heavily involved in training, etc. Okay. The second application of a master's, June, is that a master's qualified nurse is then able to teach up to a bachelor level qualification. So if you have nurses who are thinking that probably they'd like to study further in order to not work in hospitals, but to go and work in universities or colleges, then a master's qualification is the next step minimum for them to then be able to teach at a bachelor level. Okay, so 2 choices. If they want to stay in the clinical environment, that's the perfect way to go. If they were thinking it's time to leave the clinical environment and move into a teaching environment, then that would be the master's qualification is also the ticket or the gateway to do that. Okay. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, June. Yeah, thanks for asking questions. Yeah, I will contact you later. Yeah, for specific Japanese market. Yeah, so Yeah, just a reminder that if you have any questions, just pop them in the Q&A part, and I can discuss with Simon. So like when I contact with some agents, there are some common questions frequently asked. Like for the OBA assessment, what if the students fail the assessment? Do they need to pay the tuition fees and assessment fees again to participate in the next assessment?
Okay, very, very good question, Owen. And it's often a question that students and no one wants to ask because they don't want to think about failing. Sometimes they don't pass, and it could just be a bad day. It's like going to do an English test. You leave home, you're all ready to go. You get to the testing center and everything disappears out of your head. So for the fees that are paid to APRA, each time you do the test, you will need to pay again, okay? When it comes to Nclex and OBA, we don't expect that you will not pass. We expect that you will pass, okay? If for some reason a student does not pass their Nclex test on their first attempt or their OBA or Osce, we will consider offering it to the second attempt at 50% of the course fee, okay? Now, we do that on the basis that they were a good student, first of all. I don't want to offer a 50% second attempt to a student who never came to class, really didn't care, just turned up and hoped that they would just pass by some strange weather event, okay? So if we have a student who does not pass, then we would happily consider offering the second attempt at a 50% scholarship. But if that student was serious, had shown that they were serious about trying to pass, I don't want to go and do that to somebody, as I said, who never came to class and really didn't care as well, okay? So hopefully that gives you a bit of a sense. And the same goes with the Osce preparation as well.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Yeah, there's another question from the Rugana. Is your master degree considered a specialist nurse after graduate?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So what we have coming, Ruganan, is the next 12 months for IHM are going to be absolutely fantastic. So our Master of Nursing, our first intake for Master of Nursing will commence on the 5th of July. And we will be offering the online intakes in July, September, and November of 2021. I would hope by September, we will also have accreditation for 12 specialty graduate certificate courses in everything from critical care to neonatal, renal, accident emergency, etc. So that'll be 12 additional specialist courses that a nurse can choose to do as their graduate certificate first, before they then go into the master's course. So at the end of that, they would come away as a master's qualified specialist nurse with a specialty in critical care nursing, for example. Okay. And when you only have to go to any of the job boards, any of the job search boards. Okay. So if you're in the Philippines, Job Street, or, if you're anywhere in the world, Indeed, or any one of those job search boards, and if you simply put into the search bar specialist, critical care specialist nurse, you'll see how many jobs come up around the world. Okay. So we will be able to offer that. They'll be able to do a specialization in critical care nursing, for example, and then also complete their master's in the same 2-year period. And they will then graduate as a master's qualified specialist with a specialization in critical care nursing, for example. So that's the best of both worlds for nurses. And we're really, really pleased to be able to offer that, I hope, from September onwards.
Okay. Another question from Uganda. Can you issue COE for Nclex and Osce preparation program?
Can I issue COE for Nclex and Osce? No, we don't. We generally do not issue a COE because a COE obviously will mean a student visa. These are short courses. So the Nclex is an online course. We don't offer that on campus. And the reason is because students, when they go to do the test, it's an online test. So we prepare them in an online environment. The Osce preparation is a 6-week course, okay? And generally we'll say that we'll ask nurses to come on a 3-month visitor visa. They do their 6-week preparation. They have 1 week break, and then next week they go and do their Osce test. That's 2 days. and then they have chance for some vacation and relaxation before their 3-month visa expires. Okay, so the course, we don't offer that as a COE. Students are able to complete, if we can offer a COE on a graduate certificate, on a graduate diploma, or a master's qualification, and that can then include obviously the Nclex, and during that time they can then do the Nclex and the OBA as well. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Another question from another attendee, that we have few nurses from the South Korea who has 2 to 3 years working experience in the hospital already, a Bachelor of Nursing.
Right.
Does it fit for entry requirement for Master of Nursing?
Yes, it does indeed. So the entry requirements are 3 key requirements. First is a Bachelor of Nursing qualification. The second is current registration with the Nursing Board in Korea. Okay. And the third is the language requirement, 6.5, no less than 6 in any one band, or PTE 56 or OET B and C clubbed. The 2 to 3 years experience will be fantastic. Is what it does is that develops their skills. So when they're then studying their masters, they're then able to take that knowledge they have and then apply advanced nursing principles to that. Okay, so they would be a perfect candidates for a Master of Nursing program.
Yeah. Okay. The question from Jane. While studying in the Master of Nursing, would it be possible to take both the preparation courses, especially the preparation for Osce? Seems like intensive. So could it be offered while the semester break, or any recommendation?
Good question, John. I think you should come and work for me, John. You're absolutely on the money, John. What we do is, because the master's program is a 4-semester program, there's quite decent breaks, and then there is an end of year. There's a mid-semester break from essentially November through to February each year. So what we'll do is the students can take the Nclex online preparation whilst they're studying their masters, because they're only studying 20 hours per week. The Nclex preparation is reasonably light duty. Okay, and then come the semester break, they can then take their Osce preparation during that November through February period, take care of that, and then they're ready to then jump straight into Adelaide to do their assessment once the whilst the semester resumes. Okay, so those timings work kind of nicely. And that's why we've sort of designed the masters as a 4-semester program, so that they're then able to, with that long break, so that they've got that mid-term break to then be able to complete the Osce on-campus assessment as well.
Yeah, and as for the ECOE, could you issue both ECOE for the graduate certificate and Master of Nursing in total of 2 years, and let the students apply for student visa and let them start the programs from offshore?
Yeah, so short answer is yes, we can. Although we wouldn't issue 2 COEs, we just issue 1 COE, which is for the Master of Nursing, a 2-year duration, so 104-week COE. Okay, so we'd issue that for the 2 years. They can commence studying offshore. As you said, they can do the graduate certificate offshore online, but and then they can then simply complete the, and then when borders are open, they come to Australia on their visa, student visa, and they then jump into the Master of Nursing. Now, there's a good point you raise in here as well, and that is the preference of students. If Home Affairs has said that if a student wants to commence enroll on campus in Australia on a 2-year COE, they're able to commence study offshore and complete the first semester offshore and still be eligible for their 485 visa. Okay. Now, not all students, and some students are a bit hesitant about applying for their visa when we really don't know exactly when borders will be open. So they have a second option, and that is they can apply for and study, and we can issue a COA for the graduates, the GCN, the Graduate Certificate in Nursing, for the first semester. And then we then issue a second COE once we know when borders are open for the Master of Nursing, and we give credit for the Graduate Certificate, the 4 units they've completed. They get credit into the Masters, and they then join us on campus and complete, and then they're eligible for a 485 visa. As you guys would all know, Home Affairs requires a minimum of 16 months on-campus study in Australia. Semester 1 is 6 months. That leaves 18 months. When borders are open, students start and come to Australia on their COE. They've applied for their visa when they are more comfortable, and then they have 18 months in Australia on that student visa. Okay, then they're eligible for their 2-year post-study work visa. Okay, so there's two choices for nurses. Some are not comfortable applying for their visa straight away. They want to wait until borders open, so now they can get started on a COA with the GCN, and then when they're more comfortable, more familiar, they'll then we can then apply for the COE and their visa for the Master of Nursing.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Yeah, another question from Gustavo. How change the registration procedure if the student wants to apply for enroll nurse? The level of education is just a diploma. I think, that question is it's more like to apply the diploma of nursing, I think.
How change the registration procedure if the student wants to apply for an enrolled nurse? Okay, so you are correct, Gustavo. The education level required for registration as an enrolled nurse in Australia is a 2-year diploma of nursing program. Now that course must be done in Australia for 2 years, okay? And at that point, the nurse is then able to apply to the nursing board, and they will get direct registration as an EN, an enrolled nurse, compared to an RN, okay? So that course will work very nicely for Year 12 graduates, for example, who are then looking for a pathway. A nurse who's done a 2-year diploma will then, if they wish, can go on to a Bachelor of Nursing, and they'll get a 1-year credit package. So they'll start their Bachelor of Nursing on the 2nd year, and that's another 2 years. By doing that, it means they will be eligible for a 485 post-study work visa, okay? Because it's only in very rare circumstances that the Diploma of Nursing graduate is eligible for a 485 post-study work visa, okay? So if you have a student who wants to be a nurse in Australia, may not have the academic scores to get in as a bachelor level, they can then join a diploma. And I would suggest they're looking to do this early next year because they'll need to do it on campus. So I would be thinking March of 2022. They do their diploma for 2 years, then they go on to their bachelor for another 2 years. Because they've studied their bachelor, they're then eligible for a 2-year post-study work visa. Okay, and that I think is a good and Gustavo, we find that's quite a nice fit for students who, Year 12 graduates who they may not have 6.5 in language, which is what a bachelor needs, or 7s, they might have 6. And, it's all 7s, but whatever it may be, they can then also come up with some other pathways to go through with. Okay. Laura, welcome. Can a French registered nurse apply directly for registration with APRA or need to study the graduate certificate in nursing? So Laura, if the nurse is a bachelor qualified nurse, okay, they're able to apply directly to APRA for registration. What APRA will do during step number 1, you recall the self-check, okay? If you simply go to the APRA website, and Owen can share with you the link to the self-check, you simply put in a few details, and one of those is the level of qualification and where that qualification was done, okay? And APRA will then map the French bachelor against the Australian bachelor and determine if it's and their technical language is it is significantly equivalent to the Australian bachelor qualification. If there's a little difference, the nurse will then have to go and do the OBA, the Nclex and the OBA. They don't need to do the graduate certificate in order to be eligible. They'll probably be asked to go off and do the Nclex test and then the OBA. The graduate certificate is only relevant for registration if you're a diploma qualified nurse. So I hope that answers your question, Laura. So it is bachelor to bachelor, will generally require Nclex and OBA. Diploma will generally require graduate certificate in nursing in order to reach above bachelor or above level. Okay. Please let me know if I didn't answer your question, Laura, too. just on mute there, Owen.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Yeah, so thank you for all of the questions and attending today's presentation. So if you have any more questions, you can contact me directly, so I can forward to Simon. We can discuss about that and give you very correct answers. And also, I have shared the link about the self-check in the MBA, so you can have a look of that information. So thank you again, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. So I will left my contact information in the email, so you can contact me directly for any question and application.
Great.
And also the scholarship information. So don't worry if you miss anything, because you will receive a follow-up email with a link to view the recording of today's presentation.
Super.
On behalf of the Health Careers International, thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day. Thank you, Simon.
Thanks, Owen, and thanks to everyone for taking the time to join us as well.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.